We are indeed. Hello, hello, hello. It is Una Doyle here from Creative Flow. We're here today with Jess and Stephen for our weekly marketing, branding, and getting the sale live. And today we're talking about how to stop competing on price. So I will introduce myself properly in a moment because I just realized I haven't plugged my mic in. I'm going to pass over to Jess and then Stephen to introduce themselves. Now we will dive in. Now, if you're watching live, please put hashtag live in the comments. If you're watching on the replay, please put hashtag replay. And we want to hear your comments, your questions, your suggestions. So please feel free to share away. Over to you, Jess.
Hi, yeah, so seeing as we're on the topic of competing on price, I don't know if any of you know, but a discount as little as 10% can actually mean you've got to work 66% harder to get the same profit. So that's what I help with my clients. I've got a 6-step brand loyalty process that makes sure that the business is standing out and the brand is standing out in the right way to attract the right people, increase the profits, all without making sure that they're reducing any of the prices.
Excellent. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Stephen Lerman from Chameleon BDS Limited. I am an appointment setter, cold call and prospector for people that don't want to, don't like to, or haven't got the time or resource to do it internally. They outsource it to me. And I firmly believe that if you start competing on price, you are devaluing your proposition.
Absolutely.
And you absolutely get what you pay for. Sorry, Una.
It's a race to the bottom, isn't it? Race to the bottom. That's what someone has already said about this. And yeah, it's really true. For those of you who don't know, I'm Una Doyle. I'm a business strategist and coach, and I'm on a mission to help small and medium-sized business owners to unlock 100 million in additional revenues whilst creating 1 million days of smiles through my giving partner, B1G1. Go and check them out. So one of the things that I talk about is how I can help any business to unlock 50K in only 50 minutes. And again, a lot of people, well, not a lot, but I guess some people going, really? Is that possible? And the reason why it's possible is one of these things is that helps you not to compete in price is having a really strong market dominating position. Now, people often talk about a USP or unique selling point or unique selling position. But a market dominating position will often include a USP, but it's more than that. It's more than a niche. So for many businesses, they do need to have at least one niche. If they're big enough, they may have multiple niches that they're able to market. If you're only a one-person business, please don't have multiple niches. It's enough work to tackle one niche, okay? So having that strong market dominating position, well, what is that? Okay, I'll tell you what it is. It's answering the question, what is the problem that they have that they don't want, and what is it that they want but they don't yet have? Now, if you can answer those two questions, then you're going to find that you're going to be able to position yourself in the marketplace. Now, you can't do that without really knowing your customers. You've got to be able to tap into their hot buttons. What is it that they actually really care about? Okay, it's not enough. A lot of USPs, they often are kind of like snazzy, clever strap lines. But often people don't even understand what they mean, let alone actually care about them. So this is why it's really important to have that strong market dominating position. So over to you, Jess and Stephen. What's your thoughts on what I've just been sharing there?
I think that's key. Like, I was going to share 2 mistakes that businesses are making with, that's resulting them in competing on price. But with you saying target audience, that's definitely a third one. I was guilty of this when I first started out, and a lot of other businesses are. They only scratch the surface with the target audience. And it's no wonder, again, like, no one's doing anything wrong. When you go to marketing courses, business training, all these sort of things, they give you a list of questions to answer, and it does only scratch the surface with your target audience. You really need to dig down deeper. And that was what you were saying, Una. We're finding out, what they have and they don't want, what they want but they don't have. It's really understanding that on an emotional level. Not logically. What do they logically need? What do they logically want? But what will they gain emotionally? You know, will they be proud, motivated, optimistic? You know, all these emotions that come into it. We have to know that about our target audience to attract them, you know, and get in front of them and be able to add value to them.
Definitely. And I think, you know, the emotion is important, and I think we need the logic as well. Like, I think you need both. If you only have the emotion, like there are some people, their personality types are more directed to logic. So you also need to understand that about your audience. You know, is it an audience that tends to have a particular kind of personality type, and how do they like to buy? Now, it's not always the case for all audience groups. You know, there might be a bit more diverse personality types within, you know, if you're targeting a specific job title in a particular industry, for instance. But you know, there often are kind of, well, actually a lot are going to be like this, and how do they like to buy? And I think the biggest thing that I see is people being too generic, right? If you look at your competitors' websites and marketing material, and they're saying the same kinds of things as you are, then you're in trouble. You've got to be saying something different. And this is one of the things, is that different is better than better. Because so many clients and you know, people that I talk to, they'll say, yeah, but they're saying this, but I know that they don't fulfill that promise, and we do. Right, but how does a prospective customer know that? They don't. So it's really important to be specific. You can't just say, you know, oh, we're well established, and you know, we really pride ourselves on our customer service and our quality. Yeah, everybody, that's a given as well, by the way. You know, if you can't, you know, if somebody would respond to that with, well, I would hope so, it's not a market dominating position. It's a standard that people expect you to have when they're buying from you. So yeah, that specificity and being different, and not just being full of platitude, which is what I see so much of. What about you, Stephen?
I always get confused between USP and MDP because so a market dominating position, you know, my understanding could be your price isn't your market dominating position, but it could be it's any value added service that you add on top of that, right?
Not quite, because like there's a difference between you got to think benefits rather than service. So you'll understand, I'm sure, about features and benefits. Okay, and just for anyone who's watching that maybe hasn't come across that distinction before, you know, so a drill is sharp. That's a feature of a drill. The fact that it can make a hole, that's a benefit, right? So you understand about, you know, features and benefits. So really, a market dominating position is focusing on the kind of the primary challenge and aspirations that your ideal customers have, and showing how your product meets that in a way that is different from your competition. And actually, quite often it does require people innovating. So, you know, maybe, so say for instance, like, so I work with a lot of creative services providers. So people like a design, you know, a kind of graphic design, website design, animation, etc. And all too often you'll go to these creative services websites, and they'll have a tab, you know, a navigation tab called services. You click on it, and a whole load of different things come up. But they don't have, you're not able to land on their homepage and know within minutes that, oh my God, this is the business that I need to be working with.
Right.
You know, they get me. Instead, it's like just a menu. It's a menu of things that they offer, but you know, that's just like so many other websites.
Cool. Thanks. I always get it always confuses me, that market dominating position. You talk about it all the time, and it blows my mind, because it's so in depth as a and you can go off on so many tangents and different and rabbit holes that so that's
it typically takes like between 2 and 4 months of me working with the client for us to get real clarity on the market dominating position.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So, they're going through, so I've got an online platform where they're going through trainings, and then we're talking about it in coaching sessions. They're going through multiple exercises to get to the heart of it. And the interesting thing is that it's not always that it's unknown. It's just that it's not vocalized, or it's not vocalized in such a way that it actually is meaningful. So you could have multiple unique selling points that form part of a market dominating position, or maybe they're not unique at all, but it might be what everyone else is doing in the marketplace, but no one's talking about it.
Right.
Or no one's talking about it in a way that actually really hits the hot buttons of your customers.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah, so good. I hope that's helped. That's a good question, because that's the thing, is like it's so easy for us to become, to kind of think people know what we're talking about. The more clarity we can bring to the party here, the better, So, question for you, Stephen, like when you're talking with your clients who you're then calling on behalf of, what is it that, like what's your response when you're getting pushback on price and things? Like, does that happen with you? Like,
okay, so yes, it's only happened once so far. I had a scoping session with a company, and they said, "What do you charge?" And I told them, and then they said, "Okay." I sent them a proposal, and they came back and said, "Could you do less days for me? Because I charge for 1 day a week for a minimum of 2 months." And I thought, could I do less? And I thought, you know what? I could, but I'm not going to. And I said, to be fair, because they'd already told me that they already had a conversation with another company that they didn't feel were as professional as I was, because they spoke to them. And this company said, yeah, we tend to stay away from larger companies because we don't like handling gatekeepers. I'm like, okay. The majority of companies that you're going to be dealing with are going to have gatekeepers, as we call them, receptionists or whatever. Yeah. And I said, listen, at the end of the day, you get what you pay for. I'm not going to compromise my integrity by lowering my price. You've already told me that you've had a conversation, a quote from me that you don't feel comfortable with. Now you're asking me to reduce my price to fit in with your strategy. I said, I would rather walk away from a job than lower the price, because it undercuts my worth.
Absolutely.
Now there's a difference between doing a job for a day rate or doing it for commission. If the commission's high enough and it's worthwhile, then I will say, okay, you know what, I'll take a chance and I'll do it. But if we're talking about reducing price because they feel like it's too expensive, what's it worth to you? Excuse me, to do my job. For you to sit all day on the telephone, making these phone calls, getting a rejection, having to deal with all these questions, and everything else, what is it worth to you? Surely it's worth less, or it's worth more for me to do it, and it frees up your time. For me, it's a no-brainer. It's an absolute no-brainer. And I tell you, the longer I'm in this business, the more I see the value in what I do and the true value.
Absolutely. I mean, I don't know if you've worked out your ROI, the return on investment, when what people spend with you and what they typically get back. That would be a great thing if you haven't got those numbers, to work out those numbers.
Well, here I'll give you a quick example. So one of my clients is a recruitment consultant, okay, and he charges a retainer, and he charges £10,000, anywhere between £5,000 and £10,000, and he wants 20% down, okay. And I said, okay. And I said to him, so the first month I said, okay, so this is my rate. And I charged him the rate. And then when I realized afterwards how much he was getting out of each client that I got an appointment from and he converts, I'm like, we need to reassess. I said, I need some commission for that, because it's absolutely worth it, because I did some work for him for a month and I stopped doing work for him. And then he started making phone calls and he said, I can't do this. I need Stephen to do it for me.
Interesting. Yeah. Absolutely. And that's the thing, is that, you know, you've got to look at, you know, what's an investment, right? And then what's the return on investment that you get with that. So, and I'm curious as well about, you know, when you are doing your work for your clients, do you come up against price objections then? And if so, how do you handle those?
No, I don't discuss price with the people I'm calling. The way I position my business is I do not sell, even though I'm a good salesperson, because I have to pat myself on the back because nobody else will. I say I don't sell. I said we're a partnership, so I will generate the interest, and I will. The easiest analogy is it's like 10-pin bowling. I'll rack them up, you knock them down. I'll get you the in, you close the deal, because everyone I've spoken to has said, you get me in, I will close the deal, and it's that simple. And I make no guarantees about selling. I said I will call them and I will find out whether they're interested, yes or no. It's that simple, because that's the time element, the time cost element is making those phone calls. They want to go in and make and know they've got the appointment. I will let them sell, because when you start selling, they start asking questions which I just cannot answer. And I tell people, listen, if you've got questions, I will not do the product any justice by answering questions. I said, you need to talk to a specialist. I'm just here to make the appointment. And I'm quite clear about that at the outset of the phone call. I don't think it's fair. It wouldn't be fair of me and to give the customer what might be perceived as incorrect information about price, about anything. So I don't even go anywhere near price. And most people are okay with that. If they've got questions, I might ask them and come back to them. But I don't discuss price at all.
Okay, great. So what about you, Jess? What's been your experience in terms of competing on price, like for yourself and your own business?
For myself, when I first started out my own business, I started out as a freelance graphic designer, and I was being asked for discounts every single day when I was just a graphic designer, you know, and that's who I were, that's the job I did. I feel like in my experience that a lot of businesses don't value graphic design within the business. Hence why they're trying to find a cheap but good alternative, want discounts all the time. Can we do this? Can we do that? It was very quickly within my business that I figured this out, and I was like, I can't keep working like this. So I, started working with Youre, and we kind of really switched my business upside down. And every designer will know, every graphic designer will know, we don't just sit and make things look pretty for the sake of it, and it takes us 2 seconds to do a job. When we're working with a business for the first time, we're doing so much research on who they are, what they've done, why they're using the things they have, all that alongside the training that we've had to understand the science behind design, how people see things, what reactions get triggered through design, how, all this is what the client doesn't see. They see the little pretty flyer that's delivered at the end, or the little logo that's done, or the business card, because that's the stuff that they can hold. So what I did was I switched my business around and was like, right, okay, well, instead I work with businesses that want this design, but they maybe don't have the answers of the questions that we're asking them. So I'll guide them through that process with me. And that's when it evolved into what I do now. That's where the 6-step process came from. And now I do get asked about discounts a lot less. Now I still do get asked. You always love a try, don't you? Everyone always tries. But for me personally now, instead of giving in, instead of, I'll do 20% off, or okay, yeah, well, I'll do everything but a little bit less money. I think about, okay, well, where is this business at? How else can I help them? So I'll have a think of what else they might find valuable and what else will really help their business that I can provide. And if I can provide that inside, the price that I'd already pitched before, then it's a win-win. I still get the price that I'd set, and the client gets that little bit extra. So that just depends on situations, circumstances, things like that. But that's how I like to kind of meet in the middle a lot of the times.
So yeah, really interesting, and it's been great to see how things have grown for you in terms of your average order value, where you started and what it is now. And definitely one of the moments I really enjoyed was not too long ago when you messaged me saying how you had enjoyed turning down a client who was not prepared to kind of go through the right process, and who was kind of, you know, they were the early signs of what would have been not a nightmare client, not a good fit for you. They might be a good fit for someone else, who knows, but not a good fit for you. And that's very satisfying for me, because I think that's one of the things we've not quite talked about yet, actually, is what is the impact of competing on price. So there's definitely, I think, particularly for service-based businesses, there's, you know, I know definitely with a lot of the creative service providers that I work with, they take their work very personally. Now, I do my best to help them not to do that. Like, to still care about it and have that sense of pride that they want, but not to take it personally if someone isn't a good fit. That it's not them that's being rejected. It's not their little creative babies that are being rejected. It's simply that, hey, it isn't a good fit. And so there's it's that emotional thing. Like, I've had people tell me how they felt ground down, they felt undermined, they felt frustrated, they felt resentful, and quite often that frustration and resentfulness comes when people have accepted a job for less than they quoted or wanted to quote. Because sometimes when the right structure isn't there and the right mindset isn't there, sometimes people will discount before they even say the price to the person. You know, that is not even that they've had pushback. They're making judgments about what the person, you know, what the person in front of them maybe can afford, or what they would be prepared to spend, or, you know, what they think the work is worth. And so they even discount it before in their heads, before they've even said it to the client. So yeah, so I think there's a lot of emotions that comes into pricing. And so one of the things I think is really key is to make sure that you're focused on what is the value to the client, to an ideal fit client. And I think one of the biggest, the most common things I come across is where people go, well, I really want to help startups. And I'm like, okay, well, what's the level of work you want to do? And the level of work they want to do is up here, but the budget for startups is down here. And so it's like, okay, we can work on finding a way to do that in a kind of, you know, high volume, low price way. But that often doesn't work for creatives, because it means they have to have a huge audience to make that work. So, you know, more often than not, it's actually about innovating. It's about productizing the service offer so that it will be appealing to the people who can afford it. And then down the road, when, you know, when it's right, they can always introduce another, you know, lower priced offer for the startups, or perhaps even do some pro bono work. You know, it's very hard you can't give from an empty cup. You know, if you want to help people, you need to have the resources to, you know, time and money to be able to do that. So I think sometimes people, they end up kind of tripping over themselves because they're wanting to help, they're wanting to make a difference, but they're not going about it in the right way. What's your thoughts on that, Stephen?
Just need to unmute. Then I've just read your message to mute. I think you're right. You know, some people tend to think that by offering a cheaper price, that's the way to fix things. That's the way to get the business. And for me, it just causes all sorts of problems. Like you said at the very beginning, Jess, you got to do 66. Was it a 10% reduction in price means 66% more work needed? I mean, you know, business is hard enough to achieve as it is without having to go even do it to do more because you've given away more. You know, and especially for people that are on their own, you know, like myself starting out at a new business, to give it away. There aren't enough hours in the day to do more. I mean, I joke, people say, how I'm busy. I need to speak to God about getting an extra day in the week. You know, I don't give my price. I don't give it away cheaply, by the way. But you know, I'm busy enough as it is. I need an extra day. So if I was to start discounting, and I'd have to do even more, and there aren't enough hours in the day. Muting myself again by accident. There aren't enough hours in the day to do it. So we have to find a different way of adding more value without giving the price, without reducing our prices. There are so many ways we can add value as businesses without cheapening our offer.
Definitely. And I think, you know, part of that is, well, let me ask you a question, Stephen. If you broke your leg, would you go to a GP?
I think the first thing you have to go to GP, yeah, before you go. No, you go straight to hospital.
You go to hospital and you'd end up saying, I've forgotten the name. What's the name of the bone doctors?
Oh God!
Yeah. Orthodontist, and I was like, no, that's not right, but it's similar.
Orthopedics.
Orthopedics. Thank you. I knew it was something beginning with O.
Yeah.
And so the thing is, you'd want a specialist who is going to fix your leg.
You muted yourself.
What? Can you hear me? Okay.
Hey, you just gone quiet. I can't hear you.
I'm not muted.
Jess, can you hear Una?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you fine, completely crystal clear.
Okay, all right, good. All right, good stuff. So, yeah, I was wondering then, because I was like,
my sound's gone off. I can't believe it.
So no problem.
I've not touched anything.
So the thing is that you know, we want specialists. You know, if you have back pain and you know you look for a massage or a chiropractor, you want one that specializes in back pain or whatever your condition is. And if you see someone who goes specializes in this, and this, it's like you don't trust that. So you know, so I think this is where niching is really, really important. Yet niching on its own is not enough. You know, you've got to be able to show people the results that you can get them. You've got to be able to specify that. You've got to be able to demonstrate it, and hopefully also have some social proof and evidence around that as well. Because, you know, people, I mean, it depends on your market, but generally, you know, the average person is much more sophisticated in terms of the marketing that they have experienced, because we are all bombarded with messages all the time. And if you're not able to show why they would be a fool to go with anybody else, then the chances are you're going to end up competing on price. So I think that's really, you know, key. You've got to get to know your customer, their hot buttons, you know, what the challenges are, what it is that they really want. You've got to be able to differentiate yourself and communicate that really clearly, you know, throughout all your marketing. And you've got to have the mindset to really stand by that. You know, because the interesting thing is, I can't remember the last time someone asked me for a discount. You know, and in fact, actually, I was telling somebody about a workshop. No, not a workshop. It's my 50K challenge session, actually. And I was talking them through that. And when I told them how much it was, they were like, "Oh, really? Is that all?" I thought you were going to say, and they said a figure that was like 4 times as much. And it's not because I'm undercharging for that. It's because I was able to demonstrate the value and the results that people get. So yeah, so you want to be in that situation where people are kind of going, oh, no brainer, right? Let me go for this. Because it's about the value, you know, not kind of, oh, well, I'll say this, but then I'll discount it. And no, it's like the discounting is not good at all. Now, there are some times when you may want to do that. So for instance, with my 5 steps to double your profits workshop, I have a fast action bonus discount, okay? Because I want people to book when they land on the page. And I give them 48 hours to book. And when they land on that page, within that 48 hours, they get the smaller price, But when that 48 hours is gone, even if it's the next month's workshop or a workshop next year, they'll never see that offer again, because it's a fast action one. It's to encourage people to make a decision. But you know, that's a workshop. It's a standalone product. Now, some people will just do that. Some of those people will end up becoming clients of mine, you know, for my one-to-one or group coaching. But those are never discounted, ever. And I think, you know, having the right mindset around that, where you just are, well, yeah, totally, this is worth way more. This is the price, this is your investment, this is, you know, why it is worth it to you. And by the way, like, okay, so the three of us are selling business to business, and the three of us are doing the kind of work where there often can be a direct correlation, some way of measuring what we do in financial terms. Not every business has that. However, you know, what you do want to be able to do is to make sure that, you know, you are talking about the non-financial return on investment, you know, such as peace of mind, you know, other things, but ideally being as specific as you can, right? We don't want to get back into the platitudes, but just being really specific with that as well. So Jess, what else have you got that you'd like to add here? Oh, you're muted.
Yeah, just going off what you said, you know, having them processes in place, having, you know, loose scripts, if you will, where you've got a framework on what you say, how you say it. Again, not in a persuasive way, but just in a, this is what value you're going to get, and I want to make sure you know everything before you make a decision kind of way. You know, it's to benefit the person that you're talking to. So yeah, I feel that's hugely important as well. There was a few other things that I would love to share as well. There are 3 kind of tips that I work with my clients that I think can really help people if they're struggling with this at the minute. So one of them is touching on what we were talking about earlier about your target audience and really digging in deeper. A quick way to do that, if that's something that's not natural to you or you kind of don't really know where to begin, if you write down 3 of the logical benefits that your product or service gives to your customer or client, and then just write down the emotional gain that person gets from each of them logical benefits. There's going to be one. You know, if one of the benefits is saving money in the long run, then like Una was saying before, that's giving peace of mind. You know, that's giving the joy of being able to spend on other things. There's always some emotional, you know, reward from any logical decision. And also to kind of just tap into that a little bit more, is a huge myth is that we have like a logical side of the brain and emotional side of the brain. Now, I've been looking at this into a lot more detail recently. And to make a good decision that lasts, you know, and builds in loyalty, which is everything that I'm about, you've got to make a decision based on emotion and logic. So like you were saying, Una, you've got to have them both. So having 3 logical points and 3 emotional points that marry each other is a great place to start. So that's the first one. The second one is really looking at what strength your brand has. So again, this is slightly different from your USP and your market dominating position. Once you've got all that, you need to look at what your strength is. Now, there's 4 core strengths. You could have customer experience, your story, your quality of your product, or your price could be a strength. So just to give a couple of examples, you know, the likes of Apple and Rolex, you know, they're huge. You know, they get most of the sales. They're massive market leaders. They never discount on price. Their price point is never, not even in the conversation until people are ready to buy. You know, they get people's attention in other ways, which is what your brand can work towards. But then on the opposite side of that, if you're sat there thinking, okay, yeah, but my products are cheaper than my competition and I pride myself on that, that is one of my strengths, then you can utilize it. It's not a bad thing. McDonald's do it. You know, McDonald's say that they're kind of, you get hot fast food at affordable price, but they don't throw discounts at you. You know, they make sure that they have the efficiency, the processes, the systems in the background to deliver, you know, that affordable product. So that's where your focus is. And that's kind of, you know, even the TV adverts are never come to McDonald's now and get 50% off. You know, they're talking in different languages. So really look at what your strength is. And the last one, okay, I thought I'd nearly forget that then. The last one is looking more into your brand awareness. So when people think, okay, I've got this ad in a magazine, or I've got this banner space on a website, or I'm putting my brand out there, I'll do it as brand awareness. I'll just put my logo in the corner and people see who I am, and then that's it. You know, you want to look at it in more detail. You want to, again, look at that process on what you want people to do next. You know, utilize brand awareness with them emotional gains and logical gains. You know, there's all sorts of adverts, like Youre was saying, with you know, we've been going 20 years, we pride ourselves on this service, we do this, we do that, you know, it's all brand awareness. But think, what are you giving to your customer and your client? You know, think about that and communicate that. So yeah, all them three things will help you set yourself aside from your competition and not have to reduce your prices, you know, if you don't want. So yeah, I hope that makes sense if anyone's getting questions.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, the interesting thing, I've just had a message come in while we've been on, and it says, "Hello, Una. So curious about the video of the extra 50K revenues," right? Which I mentioned earlier. It's on my LinkedIn profile. You can go and check that. So isn't that interesting, right? So that's, you know, this is my market dominating position and it's working. You know, it's getting people to put their hands up and to go, tell me more about this. This sounds interesting. So it's funny, isn't it? And yeah, it just shows when you've got clarity and specificity, and you are, you know, you're looking and sounding different than your competition, you're going to attract people there, and they're going to want to know more. Stephen, do you have anything else to add, or any questions from what we've been talking about here today?
Yeah, I have a question I wanted to put to you two. So obviously, the first thing that people tend to do is discount on price. You know, if they're panicking about getting business or want to get more business, what would you suggest are other ways, like something simple?
Right, that was me.
Yeah, something a simple alternative to price, as a way to you know, as to combat that. What would you give instead of price, as a discount on price? What would you suggest?
Well, what I would, okay, there's a couple of quick things that I would check. So number one, are they actually targeting the right kind of customer? Because sometimes it's just not a good fit, that the people who they want to help aren't the ones who can actually afford what they want to be charging. So, you know, is there a mismatch in there? And then they can make a choice. So they can either choose to serve that market in a different way that's still going to be profitable for them, or they need to actually, you know, kind of make sure that they're getting in front of the right people who actually can afford and want the transformation that they're actually offering. So that's one thing. The second thing is, actually, I would ask about what they value in what it is that they're offering, and what do they think it's really worth. And actually, let me just tell you a quick story. Well, it's not that quick, but I'll make it as quick as I can. And that is when I was delivering a workshop one time, and I was with a group of other coaches and consultants. And one of the attendees, we were talking about pricing, and one of the attendees said, I've got to tell you this story. I used to share an office with this guy. He was a speaker. He was like a consultant and a speaker. And they were American. And he was charging $3,000 a day at that time. And he wanted to put his price up to $5,000, but he was really nervous about doing this. He was worried about losing clients. And so he'd been humming and awing for months about this. So he gets this big client approached him from a referral. Okay, so trusted source is referred to him. He thought, right, this is a big company. I know they can afford it. I'm going to do the $5,000 a day. So he did that, and then he didn't hear anything. And he thought, oh, okay, well, you know, I guess I can't charge that much. And so he carried on charging his $3,000. And about a year later, this company reached out to him and said, oh, we'd like you to come and do this now. And it was a 3-day workshop with some senior leaders in this big global company. So he goes along, starts delivering the workshop. At the end of the first day, big boss man says, hey, actually, you know, we've got everything that we need. Okay, let's all just go back to our respective offices and implement straight away rather than wasting the next 2 days. And so they had to change all the travel arrangements, and he ended up in a car going back to the airport with big boss man, who was huffing and puffing in the corner, kind of, and looking out the window. And so this guy is kind of like, have I done something wrong? Like, what's going on here? And so eventually he said, can I just check? Is everything okay? And so Bossman says, did you quote to do this work like a year ago? And he said, well, yes, I did. Oh, is there a problem? He said, well, yeah. He said, we could have had, like, the amount of money we've lost by not having you in our business a year ago is just tremendous. But I didn't think you were any good. And he said, oh, well, can I ask why you didn't think I was any good? He said, well, you weren't charging enough. Oh, well, how much would you expected me to charge? And he said, oh, like 80 to 100 grand for the 3 days. Like, at which point, if this guy hadn't already been sat down in the car, he would have fallen over. So now, not every example is that extreme, but I hope it makes a point that, you know, you've got to make sure you're matching the value that you give with the audience that you're working with. And I've come across countless situations where people have said to me, in fact, there was one person I know who we were talking about this one day, and he told me about a time he put some work out to 3 designers. One of them was actually his friend. His friend came in with the lowest price and he didn't give him the job. Why? Because he was worried that his business was going to go under because he wasn't charging enough. And then that was his mate. You know, it's just crazy, absolutely crazy. Yeah.
Just going on the back of that, we talk about with the guy in the taxi with the big boss man. I had a similar conversation with somebody, and we talked about. I quoted for a law firm for some work, and when I was talking to this other person about it, he said to me, "You're not charging enough," because he said he used a similar organization to me years ago in the city, and they were charging an obscene amount of money, and that's what these companies are prepared to pay. So, you know, it's yeah, you've got to, your price has got to fit the audience, because if you're not charging enough, they'll think A, you're no good, or B, there's a problem, there's a fact that you might go under because you're not charging enough.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm not sure who this is that's quoting here, but yeah, people discount themselves if they aren't confident to step on work on you. But make yourself stand out by adding value. Yeah, bundling, stacking guarantees is all the stuff. There's a lot of this stuff that I work on in the W Your Profits workshop, actually. So yeah, absolutely. I think there's many aspects to this. And you ask the question, what can people do quickly if they're in the situation where they're getting pushback on price? You know, one simple thing that they can do is just stand their ground. You know, you don't always have to try and give something else. If you have priced appropriately, and most service-based organizations that I come across are actually undercharging anyway. If you've priced appropriately, you know you're not ripping people off, then stand your ground. You know, that's the easiest thing that you can do. And actually, I think that's confidence. If you are confident in your offer, and you're excited about the results that you're going to get for your prospective client, then that communicates itself. But if you have doubt, so if you've got mindset stuff going on about your pricing, about money, so many, you know, it's a very common thing for people to have money issues, that can leak through. You know, it really can leak through. And then people feel a bit uncertain, and they might not even really know why. But they kind of go, oh, I'm not quite sure why, but I'm not buying, you know. So yeah, so I think that's I think that's one thing. And then sure, the other thing is, so we've talked about the audience and making sure your offer is matching the audience. We talked about standing your ground. And then the third thing is, oh God, the third thing is literally just escaped my brain. I had a third thing to say there. It'll come back to me. Jess, fill in for me.
I was going to say it came in and out in the same breath, didn't it?
Literally, I had the idea and then boom, it went.
I think the two core things that it keeps coming back to is your own mindset, yourself, working on yourself, and value. You know, knowing what value you have, knowing the value of your product, your service, but also knowing the value of the benefits of that. And you know, the value can go across all sorts of platforms, can't there? It's not just one for one thing. And once you have that confidence with that value, you've got it. And like you say, you know, I'll put my hands up and admit, when I first started out, I'd price with wiggle room for discount because I was expecting discounts before the price was even going through. Now I don't do that now because, like you say, I know that that's how much that is. And if there's other things I can do, there is. If not, that's kind of what it is. But having that mindset, you know, and having that value to back it up is, to me, it's key, and it's helped me out a lot as well.
Here's one for you. I just want to never give anything away for free.
So generally speaking, yes. But I think right now, we're sharing advice and we're sharing our time at no direct kind of return for us, right? So we're not being paid to do this. We're doing it for free. But we're doing it to help people and to demonstrate who we are and how we can help and all of those good things. And because it's fun, right?
Yeah.
But there's a difference between that and like what you're talking about, where, you know, somebody is actually doing work for nothing.
Yes. Sorry, I need to qualify that. Yeah. So somebody said to me, can I try your services for free? And I said, no, my time is valuable. I've got people paying me for my time, you know, and there are plenty of other, listen, I'm not the only one that does what I do. Yeah. And there are plenty of people that do it. I'm good. I don't know anybody close to me. That's fine. But he wanted something for free. And I said, no, I said, it's my time. I'm doing the work. Irrespective of the results, I'm still doing the work. I'm sorry, but the answer is no. And you know, at that point, they were never, ever going to pay.
Absolutely. Tire kickers. You know, and this is where having a solid sales process really helps. Okay. When you got that structure of, okay, so what typically happens, you know, when you actually are in the process of enrolling a new client. And a lot of that is about checking at every stage. Well, is this a good fit for me? Is it a good fit for them? And when you come at it from that perspective, you know, because I think it's that scarcity mindset of, oh God, I don't want to get a no, I have to get a yes, I need this money, or I don't want the rejection, you know, whatever it is that's kind of going on between the years. You've got to let go of all of that. And if you actually really come, you know, like I talk about impact-driven growth. If you come from that perspective, you know, how can I actually really best help this person? You know, sometimes how you can best help somebody is send them to somebody else. You know, and actually there's one other thing, actually I've remembered what it was I was going to say. So the third thing that people can do is, rather than discounting, is to have a downsell. So a downsell means they're getting less than they would in the original offer. So it's not a discount. It's still value for money for them and for you. It's still profitable for you because you're giving less. But that can be a way of, you know, making sure that you're getting the business, and maybe they're going to upgrade at a later time. But there's something there. It doesn't work for every single business, but for many businesses it can. So that's a third thing that we can do. So, well, listen, I think we've talked about some fabulous stuff here today. I'd love to know kind of what's been the standout thing. So Jess, what's been the standout thing for you today? What's been most significant?
It's hard to say because we've covered so much. You know, we've covered business, personal mindset, brands. But I think I'll just repeat what I said a few minutes ago, in a sense of the value and your own mindset. Once you've got them, once you're clear on that, everything else follows on from that. You know, you can get the process in place, you can make sure your brand reflects that, you can make sure you're talking to the right people. But knowing that value and having that confidence is key.
What about you, Stephen?
So actually, I put it in the chat because I was making notes. I didn't forget it, and I sent it by mistake. So it's what Jess said earlier. You know, writing down the emotional and logical gains. You know, it's having those written down. You know, because I know I don't do that, and I think it's so important. And I'm going to start doing it, Jess. So thank you for that. It's brilliant. Love it.
Good stuff. Well, for me, the one thing I want to reiterate is market dominating position, because everything else comes out of that. And actually, what's really interesting is that quite often people's confidence grows when they have clarity on what their market dominating position is, because they suddenly go, oh my God, this really is valuable. And they're much happier to charge higher prices, you know, for that. So I think that's really key. So, you know, if you're still here with us today, then, you know, you've obviously got some value from what we've been talking about. So make sure that you have followed or connected with myself and Jess or Stephen, whoever you, all of us, or whoever you relate to most. And, you know, what we share here is a fraction of the way that we can help people in our own individual way. So do feel free to reach out. I do have a video about a free video that you can watch about how I managed to achieve 50K in only 50 minutes. You know, we all have different things like that. So make sure to reach out to us. We're here same time next week. And make sure that you join the event. I'll make sure to pop that into the chat afterwards. So we have an event. If you join the event, then you'll get the notifications every week. And of course, pop it into your calendar, and then you won't miss it as well. You'll be able to attend and ask questions, because the more questions we have, then the more value we're able to share with that as well. So great. Well, thank you, Jess and Stephen, for being here today, as always. We will see you all next week. Bye for now.
Bye-bye. Thanks, Una. Thanks, Jess.